Rex, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I love my city of Owensboro. My goodness, what great memories.
Oh, we're going to talk about your Owensboro memories coming up. Don't worry. But first, I have to get your opinion. The world right now is like, what is it going to throw at us this week? Like, what are we going to get? So we have to talk about what the NBA is doing because I have to get your opinion on the bubble because of COVID restrictions. Thank goodness sports are back because we all need sports. And the NBA's done, I think, a really good job of giving us a product.
The NBA, I couldn't be more proud of my league, of our league. When Rudy Gobert got sick initially back in spring, the NBA shut everything down immediately. And as you saw, the rest of the country sort of followed suit. And now, this is our third week in a row of 0 guys testing positive for COVID while inside the bubble. I couldn't be more proud. And then on top of it, the product. I was worried about how it was look, without fans there. But I got to tell you, it's just to have the squeaking of the shoes on and the announcers in the background has just been music in my ears. I knew I missed it, but man, it's good to have basketball back.
One thing I loved about the NBA coming back was the players' attitudes about having an option to be able to get out there and to work, to be able to play. And a couple people had asked the guys, like, is this championship going to mean any less? Should there be an asterisk? And everybody was like, are you kidding? Do you know how hard it's going to be to win this championship? And I think that has a message there.
I think there is too. And you really don't know what you have until it's gone. And I know even as professional athletes, you get spoiled and you like, I got to go to practice today. I think, but for a lot of Americans right now, I have friends, I've retired at 32 and I knew what it was like to all of a sudden have nothing to do and no purpose. I hadn't prepared for it. Everybody in the country's kind of gotten a jolt of what instant retirement is like. And I know for a lot of my buddies, it's really been hard. So it's kind of be careful what you wish for. I know for our players, I'm envious of those guys right now. It's like going to 2 months of summer basketball camp, locked down, and where all you're there to do is play basketball. I know they're going to miss family, kids, and birthdays, and there's a big sacrifice going on, but it's the greatest job in the world. It really is. You got your summers off, you can play golf, basketball. I highly recommend it.
So speaking of, and we'll stay on it, basketball, late 80s, you played in the NBA for 12, 13 years. You've done a lot of different roles in the administrative aspect of the NBA as a broadcaster. You've been able to watch basketball and be right there. What's it like to be able to watch the game of basketball evolve literally right before your eyes? I mean, you're seeing the whole game change. What's that like?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. We all tend to it's kind of the whole get off my lawn thing you get as you're an older person. We all tend to think our era is the best and the toughest and the most noble. Nah, come on. I do. Shoot, I was 6'3", 185 pounds. I was built for today's NBA, not battling other 6'8", 220-pound two guards, which is what I went against most every night, in a different era where you could hold and grab and, it was a lot more physical. But man, what these guys can do anymore, we could all handle the ball some. These guys, the way they handle the basketball now, not only with their strong hand, but also with their weak hand and the way they shoot it. I mean, if I drove to the basket 9 times out of 10, I'm going to finish with my right hand. The way these guys can finish with either hand, lay it off the glass, it's just a beautiful game. And the way they can shoot the three off the dribble is, I'll go out with my son sometimes, and he can do all that stuff. He's 27 now, but he can do all that stuff, and I'll try it, and I just kick it out of bounds every time. I don't. It's like they're playing a different game. I'm amazed by it, and I love it. It's beautiful.
So you mentioned your era, so I have to ask. a gift that was given to all of us in quarantine was The Last Dance, right? So I was a child of the 90s. So for me, watching it back, like I'm calling my mom, like, Mom, do I still have my starter jacket? Like, do you know where it is? Like, is it in the attic? So
Yeah.
when you go back and you're watching this, which I'm assuming you watched it,
Yeah.
what was it like to play on the same court as Michael Jordan? Are you intimidated? Are you thinking, I'm going to show this guy what I'm made of? Like, what is that like?
Yeah. At the time, uh, well, I think also at the time we knew Michael was great. We knew he was way different than any of the rest of us, and I don't like saying that. I mean, I really don't. As a competitor, you don't like to tell anybody that they're better than you are. Also, at the time, he was 3 or 4 or 5 years older than I was. He's still, he hadn't won titles yet, so it was this building that you see. We knew he was different, and no, never scared. I always playing basketball, honest to goodness, in Owensboro, Kentucky, against the teams that we played against at OHS. They prepared me not only for those moments, but as a young person. Um, there were 3 guys specifically: David Hogg, Marcus Robinson, and Avery Taylor, who played for OHS, who were every bit as good as I was as a 15-year-old. And I got to go to camp one summer when they didn't get to, and I got more exposure. Unfair. We can talk about that later. But what I did know, those guys prepared me to go play outside the state. I wasn't going to go play in Philadelphia or New York and play against anybody any better than those 3 guys in my hometown, who I play against and play with in the summers on the same team. We play against each other in the high school team. It was awesome. Those guys helped, and those games against OHS, AHS, OHS, they served me so well. By the time I left Owensboro, I felt like I had played in so many pressure-packed situations in front of thousands of fans, and I had. So it's just something I'll always cherish.
Let's talk about the building blocks, because we live in a time where we want it, and we want it now. We want fame now. We want success now. We want to be, financially free right now. And the reality is that's not how it works most of the time. And I think sometimes when we're in those beginning stages, or even as we start to make some noise in our careers, I think, take advantage of where we are at the moment and how that's preparing us for where we're going. So how important is that? And you just talked about it, and for us, you've got the business community listening to you. You've got your hometown listening to you. How important are those building blocks of today for our future?
Well, I mean, it's pretty basic, but if you're going to go to the gym and work out, and you're going to get on the bench press the very first day, and you put 100, whatever you put on there, however much weight, and you go try to do 20 reps of whatever it is, you'll fail miserably. It'll fall. You'll crush your chest. You'll be all bruised and battered. The reps, and the work every single day, whatever you're doing, the reps are what gives you confidence. It's like you asking me, was I intimidated playing against Michael Jordan? No. Now, if I hadn't worked my whole life to be there, and I just woke up one morning and had to go out there and play against him, damn right, I'd probably be pretty intimidated. I had worked my whole life for it, and I knew I didn't skip any steps coming up in Owensboro, Kentucky. I started playing ball every day from the time I was 8 or 9. I was committed to it. Nobody coast to coast was going to have worked harder than I was going to work that day. And my friends, black and white, city and rural, in Owensboro, Kentucky, older than me, guys I played against, guys my dad coached, all those people contributed to helping me be tough enough and good enough to go on and play a game of basketball for a living. I mean, truly blessed.
So I want to talk about your platform, because I think athletes, especially, your entire life you're on a platform, we love athletes. Some people want to be rock stars. Everybody wants to be a star athlete. So you've had a platform your entire life, and now it's a little different. So let's talk about Twitter for just a second. 900 and something thousand people are like, yes, Rex Chapman's my guy. I follow him. I follow you. I don't know. When I look at your posts, I'm like, am I going to laugh? Am I going to cry? Am I going to cringe? I don't know. But you have this incredible platform. And one thing, there's a lot of negative things about social media. But one thing that I like is that there's so much of that content that's relatable to other people. How important is that right now?
It's hugely important. You know, I was an All-American high school, maybe arguably the best player in the country in high school. All-American in college, a lottery pick in the NBA. And a year out of playing in the NBA, I was, had or not a year out, but it started a big time painkiller problem. And that went on for 14 years. In and out of rehab. I was in and out of rehab 3 times. Life is weird, and life is it's really hard. And, I've had it good and I've had it not so good. This life can get you down. And sometimes when you're down, just like right now, people are scared. I'm scared. We don't know what's going on. You hope you're going to have a job next week. You hope, food banks, we're seeing lines at food banks. And I just remember there being a time where, a couple nights I was staying in my car. So I've been down on my luck. And what I know is you can't get through it alone. You can't isolate yourself. You got to be humble enough to ask for help, and sometimes just a hot meal or a friendly smile or a hug can get you from one night to the next morning where you got a whole new day to try to continue to do the right thing. So I don't know why I started talking about that, but I did.
I'm glad you did, because I had on here, I wanted to talk to you about the valleys, because, and this is nothing new. I always, we harp on the way that our society is now, but the truth is that it's been this way forever. Mm-hmm. We tend to focus on the mountaintops because that's where you're doing, snow angels and confetti rain after the Super Bowl. That's when you're celebrating all these wins. And the truth is that I think we learn more and we grow more from the valleys than perhaps we do the mountains. So when we're in those low points, what do you think it is that makes it so hard? What do you think the hardest thing is about getting out of those dark, low moments?
Well, it obviously depends on what those low moments are, but, I think that having allies, having friends, a good group of friends or family that you can talk to about things that are bothering you. I've seen a therapist for 15, 20 years now, and that's really good for me. It's good for me to, kind of air out some of the things that go on in this crazy head of mine. From time to time, I can work myself into a bad mood like nobody's business, just wake up in a bad mood. And so that's stuff I've had to work on. And whether it's therapy or whether it's just a really good friend, ally, a spouse, life is hard. Life is weird. And man, you got to work at it every single day. It's like marriage. It's, you don't get married and then, okay, we're married, we're not going to work on our relationship anymore. No. Working on your relationship is every day. Working on your basketball game is every day. Working on your health is every day, mental and physical. So, I think, hey, I think more than anything, when you're feeling down, don't feel alone, man. There's a lot of people that are out there, and you never know what's going on in somebody's head. So, take a moment always to say hi and give a friendly smile, because you don't know, that may just get that person through the next day.
So when you're talking about this, and one of the things that I think you can't help but love about you is how open you are, and how honest you are. And I think mental health is one of those things that has always had this stigma. And I think a lot of it is attached to an old mindset of, well, that's the way we do it. or that's the way things have always been done. We see that a lot. We see that a lot today when it comes to ways people do business and the way relationships are run and social issues. How do we get over that mindset of this is how it's always been done, and let me see how we can do things differently?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Going back, I can think about, and from the outside looking in, if every people who knew me, who might be watching this from way back when, if you saw me from age, 15 to 20 or 30, you go, oh man, what a perfect life, just money and kids and playing ball and I can tell you, and my friends can tell you there, Jeff Sanford knows. Um, I always struggle with my head. I quit our high school basketball team. I was the best player in the state going to Kentucky, and I quit our basketball team. Just emotional, and I would lose my mind. I got to Kentucky, was everybody's darling and all that stuff, and I couldn't get into any of the bars where my friends were going. I was too young. If I got in, they would let other underage guys on the team in, but if they let me in, they would be like, "Nah, if we let you in, the cops are going to come and we'll get in trouble." And then at that point, I found myself sleeping a lot in college. I either because I couldn't really go out, and so I was either playing basketball, practice, or sleeping, and chasing some girls. Okay, you got me. But no, but that's very true though. That was also, me just trying to escape my mind and staying, just trying to fight off my depression. And so I fought with that for years and years. And it's not, I think that used to be a really unpopular thing to say, really unpopular to say out loud. And especially if you were a white male growing up in the South, not popular. Guess what? We all have it to a degree. We don't all have it. Some of us do have it. Our kids have it. And we got to talk about mental health. We must. It's got to be more open. But think about it. What it took for me to open up and talk about it is crashing and burning to where I could be so vulnerable. I always felt like I was sort of carrying around a bit of a secret, that I couldn't. And so there was a part when I did, got in trouble and I'm plastered on the front of the news and all that. There was a part of that made me feel like I could exhale. And, and so anything from this point on is easy.
I want to talk to you about something else that I feel like is one of those topics that's hard to talk about. And I think one reason is because there's a lot of passion that's all the way around it. And I want to talk about, Owensboro. I want to talk about the Owensboro that you grew up in. I think one of the gifts of playing sports is that it forces you to be around people who don't look like you, who don't live like you, who don't love like you, who have a very different upbringing. It puts you on the same team so that you have a common goal, or it puts you as enemies, which can make some type of division grow. Talk to me about, as an athlete and as a human being, what you've seen growing up in Owensboro, what you've seen outside of Owensboro when it comes to social issues.
I have a great affinity for Owensboro, and I had an absolutely beautiful time growing up in Owensboro. And I think we're a little bit more diverse because we have a bigger city in Evansville, a little bit more of an urban population there. And therefore, we have a little bit of a more urban population in Owensboro than we do in many pockets in the state of Kentucky. And I think we're lucky in that regard. Man, I'm so blessed to have. I can't imagine what my life would be like without all the black and brown friends that I have. And it's not about being woke. You can only be woke so much. I'm a white man. I'm gonna wake up a white man. I have the luxury of learning about racism. My friends wake up black every day and they experience it every single day. We got to teach. We need to teach history a little different in Kentucky. When I was growing up, second or third grade, you learn about slavery. I remember learning about it and looking around the room like, did you guys just hear what they said? And in a week, we were on to another chapter, and that was it. No, it's got to be taught with context. When slavery ended, we didn't give slaves men, grown women. First of all, we didn't teach them how to read. We hadn't taught them. So we've got a 90-yard head start in a 100-yard race, and they're playing catch up, man. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, me growing up in Owensboro, I've already, and I talked with some other people today a little bit about this. My dad was a basketball coach there in Owensboro, but before that, he was a young man growing up in Davis County, went to Davis County High, was a terrific basketball player. His best friends from in the city, predominantly black athlete, predominantly sports were predominantly black at OHS at the time. Also, Charlie Taylor, one of my dad's good friends, Marshall, Marshall Stewart. These guys, they grew up with my dad when he was a teenager. So by the time, and they all went off to play college ball and stuff. And then they all settled in Owensboro. So now I've got built-in friends. His friends have kids my age, Avery Taylor, Chucky Taylor. So I would be dropped off, and 5, 6, 7 years old, down on 5th Street. And I would hang out there for the weekend. And I would see what it was like in a 4-bedroom house where I lived. And when I would go to 5th Street and some of my friends had 2 rooms in the whole place, no heat or no air conditioning, 7, 8 people, maybe 3 meals a day, maybe not. People were making me get my grades. Some of my friends, their families literally, working night shifts. Mom, maybe not working at all, maybe not doing well at all. So I had a lot of advantages that I know. And I want to say this too. These guys, I've already said, these guys helped prepare me for going on athletically. But I go back to a point where I was about 15. And, my guys, Jeff Sanford and Greg Vaughn and all the guys I played with at Apollo, this was the summertime. And I played with my guys from OHS in the summertime. I would play with those guys on our AAU team. We torched everybody. We won the state. We were like 3rd in the nation. And there were 4 of us on that team that were pretty good at the time. None of us were any better than the rest. We were all about 6 feet tall, 15 years old. Me, Marcus Robinson, David Hogg, and Avery Taylor. Ask anybody that knows back then. And all 4 of us got invited based on that tournament, national tournament. We all got invited. Which was a big deal at the time, to go to an invitational camp. It was called BC All-Stars. It was in Georgia. Even though you were invited, you still had to pay something to go. And it was, at the time, it could have been $150 or whatever it was. Well, only one of us got to go. And it was me. My dad coached at the college, even though he went to Ellis Park and played cards and did all that stuff with Avery's dad and all those guys every single day of the week. My dad coached at the college, and I had $150 to go. And so what ended up happening from there on, now, yeah, maybe at some point I kept getting better and maybe they peaked a little bit. Also, they didn't have the same home advantages that I had. Also, at that point, yeah, I went to that camp, and because they had beat me up so many days playing ball, those 3 guys, all the time growing up, I went and I killed at that camp. There was nowhere I was going to go that I wasn't going to be better, because of those guys. They didn't have the privilege of going to the camp. And what happened from that point on was I started being recruited way more than those guys were. And then, you had to make your grades, and I had people helping me, stay on top of my grades. So there were built-in disadvantages that my friends had that I didn't. And then I'll go on a little bit further and a little deeper. Mark Higgs from Owensboro, Kenny Higgs, the athletic Higgs family, Dwight Higgs, and all them. I grew up with these guys. I grew up with Mark. Mark was 2 years older than me. Mark's younger sister, Sean, was my age, same grade. Sean and I dated junior and senior year all through high school. It was really weird. We were kind of shamed into keeping it from everybody, and we did just because we thought that's what we were supposed to do. All of our friends knew, of course. It was kind of beautiful. They were our arch rivals, and there was my girlfriend cheering for the other team. And so I want to say, I don't even know that I've said this out loud or in an Owensboro forum at all, ever. And I feel really bad about all of it. I mean, it's shameful to hide, that you like, or it's shameful being made to hide that you like someone based solely because of the color of their skin. Before I came to college, I realized, but well before I was alive, 20 years maybe, Black athletes weren't allowed to play sports. They couldn't play Division I basketball. The NBA was an all-white league. My whole life growing up has been infused with Black culture, hip hop, Prince, Michael Jackson. They're my earliest memories, all of that stuff. And to tell me, on one hand, these work hard and you can do this. You can only like someone so much, though. You can only love someone so much. That's wrong to me. It always has been wrong to me. And look, I know we all have our views, and some of them are based on, beliefs. Some of them are based on other things. We're all trying to get better here. And the one thing I will tell you, until you've sat down with an individual person, regardless of their race, color, creed, religion, unless you've sat and talked with that person, please try not to put somebody in a corner, because you don't know their life. You don't know what they've been through. And almost always you can find some common ground if you sit and talk with that person. So, hey, we're all just trying to get a little bit better each and every day. I can't thank you guys enough for having me on to do this. Got anything else?
I do want to ask you this. As a community, obviously with us, we're a community organization, and our mission is to grow Greater Owensboro. We want it to be a better place. We love what it is, but we see the potential for this community. And I know that you do too.
I do.
How do we, as a community, collectively look at diversity as an issue? And how do we make this community a more diverse community? What can we do as a community, as an organization, as an individual, as a company? What are some things that you feel like maybe we could be doing that could be helping us to grow?
This is probably a little bit above my pay grade, but I've always been very proud of Owensboro, and how it's done racially. I still think the biggest bringing of people together in Owensboro every year. I don't know that it's the barbecue fest. It used to be, when I was young, it was the Dust Bowl, man. The Dust Bowl, that everybody, white, Black, everybody congregates on Fifth Street, and you watch basketball for a whole week there. There's no color, there's no anything. As far as businesses go, hiring practices, man. If you want to have a more diverse community, hire more diverse people other than just, local, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. You got to make the effort. And once you do that, people come. They come from outside of town. They establish roots, and their kids grow up in it. And I have said this from the time I've been young, and obviously I'm biased. It's the only place I've grown up. I did grow up in Frankfort for a year and in Hallsville for a couple of years, but Owensboro is so beautiful. It's a perfect size city. It really is. 50,000, 60,000 people. You got 4 terrific high schools. and I've been gone for a while from the local sports scene there, but my buddy's son, Jeff Sanford, Dylan Sanford, won the state tournament a few years ago. It makes me want to cry just thinking about it. It really does. Right now, we worked so hard to do it, and we couldn't get there. And then one of his kids does it. Go, Dylan. Um, it's a good city, man. I I'm proud of it for very many different reasons. And obviously, I have truly great memories there. Growing up playing Southern Little League baseball and not being very good. Learned to swim. That was my first sport. That's really all I do for exercise. But I love Owensboro, and I just think you got to continue dialogue. And the Black Lives Matter and what we're going through with the civil unrest right now, don't let it fade. This is what happens. I've been around long enough. People get upset, and then it's like the pandemic. It's not over just because you're over talking about it. This is like horse racing. This is not a sprint race. This is a route race. And you better have some endurance for the pandemic. You better have some endurance for what's going on socially, because I think this is a period of time that I think we're all going to look back on and I hope be very proud of.
Rex, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your honesty. And thank you for continuing to be an active community member, no matter where you park your car at night. We appreciate you. We appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for sharing your story. And Owensboro loves you. You're always welcome to come home. And we really appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Owensboro's in me, the borough. I love it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rex.